Hi friends, welcome back. In this video, we will be studying about constructors. Okay, so this is an important concept of BlueJ, or you can say Java. In constructors, you need to understand these constructors, as you could be asked again in your interviews or in some other company placement drive. So what constructor is exactly? Have you ever seen that it initialize have you ever seen that whenever you declare some class variable like int like this and you display its value, so it, let's say I display it, so you know you will get 0 because the default value of integer is 0. Okay, so how this default value came out? So constructor comes into this play. So before telling you about the constructor, let me tell you this constructor thing. Like, instead of giving these values, okay, so this was the previous program that we were doing. Okay, so instead of giving the values, if I just directly display system dot out dot println, okay, um print ln, okay, here just forget about the above things, and if I just go for print the name, okay, directly the class variable, if I want to print, so now you can see, I have to make it static first. Okay, so just we need to forget this whatever I have done here. You need to just forget this out. This, great. So we have forgotten what we have done in the previous class. So as of now I am commenting it, but we need to recall this again when as soon as we are done there. So if I take this class variable and then I just display it, you can see here I will get null. So we know that the string default value is null. So we just need to think that from where these null value default values are coming from. So this is constructor. This person is constructor who is doing this default values or giving the default values to the variables. Okay, so constructor is a kind person whenever if the user forgets to give the value and go for this printing call statements and use it in the program anywhere, so it assigns it to the null or the default values that are. Okay, so if you take a variable double d, so double d would be 0, 0.0. Okay, so the default value since is of decimal is 0, 0.0. So how to recognize or how we can make our own constructors? So there are some rules that you need to follow to make your own constructor. First of all, let's take that if my class name is, let's take car. So if I myself, if I have taken int mileage, let's take mileage mil, and then let's take string color. Okay, so these are my two variables, and if I just don't call them, then what happens? If I just don't use them in the void main simply and I don't give them values, so you know that constructor will provide it 0 value, and to see we will get null value. Okay, so this means that if I also in this program also, if I don't call my constructor, still the constructor is being called and it provides the null values to them, because you can see string name and here I didn't provide any value and directly called it, so the constructor was called and it gave the null value. So constructor is a very kind person. Without even being called or asked for help, constructor comes into action and give the default values to them. So without it is being automatically called by the compiler. Okay, so it is being called automatically, we don't need to call it. Okay, so it is a very kind person. You can say that a constructor is a kind person. After coming on to this constructor, if you want to make your own values and give your own default values, so you can create your own constructor. Like for sake, if you take your class car and you want to create your own constructor, so what you can do, you can make this and you can put your values. Let's take int mileage, you want to put the default values different, so you can put your own values. Instead of 0, now you can put the default value as 5, that if I forgot to give some values and if I directly call, then here it is void main, in short I'm writing, and if you call this mile, you have to display, so now 5 will be displayed because you have assigned your own default value. If you won't have assigned this, then the default value of mileage would be have been of this variable would have been 0, but you have given your own constructor, so it will be now what, 5. Okay, let's do the same thing again in the program. Okay, so let's remove this all, we don't need them. Okay, So we are done here. Yes, great. Okay, so we don't need this method also as of now. Let's remove this, and here I will just create another. I will create it int mileage, and let's take it int mileage, and then we will just put it simply here. And if I call this system dot out dot println, and then I have to first create one object also to call this. Let's take create program. Class name has to be p capital. Okay, and then let's give it obj as the object name. Very using simple naming of this so that you can understand. Obj stands for object. Okay, and then after that you simply call that object variable MILG you have given, but you forgot to give the values. Okay, so you know, when you forgot to give the values, constructor being a kind person, it's getting called itself, and without asking for help it came out for the help, and it will assign MIL as the default value 0, that you can see. But I don't want that the default value should be 0, so I will what do, I will make a my own constructor. Okay, so this is my own constructor I will create, and I will put MIL is equals to, let's take it here 980 as the mileage value. So this is now my default constructor. Just notice that the default constructor name is same as that of the class name. Okay, and whenever you create the object, this is your default constructor being created, new, and then this is your default constructor that is being called here. Okay, so where this is your class name, this is your object name, this is the new keywords makes sure that the object has been created, and this is your you can see this and this first program, these two are identically same. So indirectly we are calling our constructor. Now you can see indirectly now we are calling the constructor, because this first program, this is exactly same to this, you can see this method, so we are calling this. Now let's see whether 80 will be there or not, and you can see the default value is now 80. We have assigned our own value. Okay, so this was a simple default constructor, you can say, when we have to give our own default values to it. But sometime I want to make it according to the need of the other persons, person to person, when there are many objects, so I can create a parameterized constructor too. So how to create this parameterized constructor, I will ask the user to put the value, and here I will give it, and let's give it MIL is equals to I will assign the value whatever is been passed in the parameter to MIL. Okay, so how to do this, you just have to need to create the class object again. I will just copy this to save time. Okay, and then I will just create this, and this is another, I will take it as OB, and then parameterized, and I will give the values here. Let's take it 50. Okay, and then I will just simply display it, and I will display it here system.out.println, and I will just put ob.mil. Okay, so here during the constructor is been called, I pass the value also, go and give 50 as a default value, so it will go and check which is taking the value. So you see here that here is a parameterized variable that is taking a value, so you can pass 50 here, and m will assign 50, this value will be coming to 50 m will be 50, and this m value 50 will be assigned to MIL, that is our main variable of the class variable. Okay, so let's run this and see. And yes, you can see for the default constructor our 80 value was there, and for this simple constructor, that is a parameterized constructor, our own, according to the need of the different person to person, or you can say object to object, we have their own values. Okay, so let's take another person and let's give it 60. So let's see 60 will be there or not. Yes, 60 is also there. So this type of constructor from where we are taking personalized value of the people are known as the parameterized constructor. Okay, so this is known as a parameterized constructor. Okay, and here we can say, rather than default value, default constructor, as simple as that. These are the simple. Now we have another type of a constructor that is known as a copy constructor. What they do is, instead of taking the values and all, it just copy the this object value to another object. Okay, so so you will see this is first I will create another constructor, and here in the parameterize I will give what first program. I will pass the object and give the values of that object only to another object. Like in this for this scenario I can tell you the example being very easy for this is here we can create like this. There was a person, let's say, give me a second. Yes, so there is a person, here is a class, and this person there was a person object 1 who came out that they want black color, and after the black color what they want is they want the black color and black color, and let's take the Sony. And second person, there was a ob2 person, he said whatever ob1 is doing I like his choice, so give me the same values of ob1 only. So this is what we are copying the values. To copy the default values, what we can use a copy constructor. So I will just pass here and let's take it obj, no, ob1. Okay, so because it has been copying, so I can put it ob1. And now what I will do, I will write here this dot, I will give as mile is equals to um, this dot mile is equals to, and whatever the value ob1 wants to have here. Okay, so it will be ob1 dot mil, simple as that. Okay, so this is mil has been already, we have to call this again, and let's pass the value. So we will just put here instead of here obj, and we will just pass the values of the obj whatever we have given here, obj values, and then this obj value will be given out to be ob. Okay, so you can see that this obj value will be passed in ob1, and ob1 value will be now given to mil. Let's see how is it working. So you can see 80 was the value that we have assigned in this default constructor. So this was the default value obj was holding, so it was holding 80 value. Now we pass this 80 value. Okay, we pass this 80 value to the copy constructor. Okay, I pass this 80 value to the ob constructor. You can see this is the object I passed, and I said object was passed here. After object was passed, I took the object's mileage value, and that mileage value I assigned it to the variable. Okay, I assigned it to the ob variable, or the ob variable, or to this mil mileage variable. So you can see that instead of directly passing the values, I took the value of another object and passed it to and copied it to the ob object variable. So it's very easy, so that's why it is copying the value. So we can call this constructor as a copy constructor, because we took one object value and then that one object value I passed it to the another object for initializing that value to the another new object's value. I hope you would be able to understand and practice these constructors at your own. Basically these are the constructors, we can recall them, that how to recognize whether we are having a constructor or not. You can see the constructor name is that as that of the class name. After that you can see that constructor is not having any type of return value. So you can see here, as in the void main we are using void telling that this function is not having any value. So you can see no, only just the name of the class is as written, and we don't have any this void or return type here. So that's very easy to recognize only if the class name is written as a method, so it's a constructor being called. That's it for this video. I hope you liked this video. Thank you.